Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Couple channel. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for Wicked. One of the most beloved and enduring musicals on the stage, Wicked makes its journey to the big screen as a spectacular cinematic event. It tells the untold story of the Witches of Oz, Elphaba and Glinda, forged an unlikely but profound friendship. Now, I feel like this film is on my list of most anticipated films of 2024. It is a huge spectacle because the musical, the stage musical, is so like ingrained in my brain. At least the songs of it. I've only seen the musical once, but I listened to that soundtrack to death.
Yeah, I think you probably burned through at least one CD. It is now melted, and she had to buy a new one.
Now I just listen to it on Spotify. But yeah, when they first announced it, and then we saw that it was John M. Chu who was going to be directing, I was like, okay, I'm liking where it's going. And then they announced the cast, who I'm like, all right, I am here for it. And the only worry is that, can you do this musical justice? Can you translate what works so well on stage and to bring it onto the screen? Because it's not always the easiest thing, but I wanted to trust John M. Chu. I knew that as far as performances go, singing, musical talent, that was acting, that was not going to be the issue. I was really just worried about how they were going to translate it. And we had a chance to see it, and I gotta say, just take all your worries, crumble it up, and throw it out the window, because they nailed it.
And that's honestly something that's really tough to do, because this musical has a huge dedicated fan base. I mean, they are passionate about this musical, and to be able to make it so fans of it are going to like it, and also people who are just, that maybe have heard the music once or twice, they're going to be fans of it. And because the way that they executed this movie was very, very well done. I mean, yeah, right off the bat, the two actresses that you have for this movie, you could not have done a better job in casting. The way they act, the way they look, the way they sing fits perfectly. And then everything else that you're like, okay, well, what we know the actors are great. What about everything else? The costuming, the lighting, the color, the sound, everything fits so well together. And when I went in to see this movie, I actually was not in a good mood. I was grumpy. I was actually, we hadn't eaten anything most of the day.
Oh, you were hangry too?
I was kind of hangry, and and honestly, don't kill me, but I wasn't that big of a fan when I went to go see the musical, because I went into the musical not really knowing anything about it, not knowing anything about the book, so I wasn't as invested, and I was expecting the movie to go in one direction, or the play to go in one direction, talking about how the Wicked Witch of the West actually turns evil, and it turned into, no, she's just misunderstood, and that kind of stuck with me bad. But going into this movie knowing that, and knowing the music, I really, really enjoyed myself for this movie.
Yeah, and it's just the way they told the story, taking, if you've seen the stage production and how they choreograph things to move in and out of the stage and people, and how they transition from like song back to dialogue onto the next song. It works for stage because that's what musicals are. That's what Broadway is all about. How are you going to make it matter on film, and why suddenly everybody is singing? It just feels so natural. It flows right into it. I don't believe they cut a single song from Act 1. I did double check the soundtrack list when we came home, because I'm trying to recall that one time that I saw the musical many, many years ago, but I don't feel like they've cut out a single, even the songs that I was mentioning, thinking, I was like, oh, they're gonna cut this short, oh, they're gonna do this. They didn't cut anything. Anything that mattered to, especially to the fans. I think this was also a big love letter to the fans, to say, in a way, to say like, we know you guys care about this musical. We care about it too. So are the people that are in front of the camera, behind the camera. Let us show you how. And they're taking, I'm not going to say what, but if you've seen the musical, or at least like, clips from it, and it's not just the songs, but like certain moments from the show, they made sure to put that in there. So as a fan, I think people are going to get that. They're going to be happy with it. I am so pleased with the way the choreography is. As someone with dance background, one of my least favorite thing is watching like a musical thing on TV, and it doesn't have to be like a musical movie. It could be like a stage performance, and when it's like a big dance break and they're like zoomed in on like something else or like one thing and they're following instead of showing the choreography in a wide shot where you're seeing it, you know, like the beats and the sounds and everything. It was done so well in so many of these shots that I was like, wow, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to watch this go down because it was executed extremely well.
One thing that, I kind of want to piggyback off of that is the fact that, the transition from play to movie, they did a really good job on making these moments cinematic. To where, except for one little part, I don't want to spoil anything, but one little part where I feel like they kind of chopped up the song in order to make it more cinematic. That was the one part that I was kind of like, I don't think it fit very well. But everything else, the way that they were able to make these songs just feel like they belong on the big screen. They belong, I mean, even though they started out on stage and everyone knows them from the stage, they fit incredibly well. And the way that it was, how can I say it? The fact that it was just seemed so natural to be able to pan from one moment to the other. The in-between parts of from music to just
The
dialogues.
Right.
I thought was great. It flowed very well.
Let's go ahead and talk about the performances. So we've got Cynthia Erivo, we've got Ariana Grande as our two leads, our Elphaba and our Glinda. And musically, I wasn't worried at all. These are seasoned pros, if you will. So I trust them with the singing and the performing. And what I was really hoping that was going to come across, and I feel like if you watch enough of the press tour interviews, you can already see it. And so like my sort of like anxiety for how that was going to be was starting to kind of calm down already as I watched some of the interviews. But I was really looking for that connection, chemistry, and friendship, and in a sense sisterhood that these two were going to have. And these actors needed to be so in tune with each other that they could play off each other. And you have to have that chemistry, and that chemistry is not pretend. That kind of chemistry is, I mean, you can, but this was truly earned. And that's why it felt everything that they were saying, especially as we get into like, you know, the big towards the end of the movie for part one, the emotions felt even more like heightened because of how close they are to each other. And it's, you know, like they're crying, I'm crying, and I'm just like, oh, you can feel it coming across the screen. And that's what I would really wanted to see, because these are the two characters, they don't start as, you know, friends. They're a very unlikely pair, a very odd pair. They're kind of a little bit oil and water.
Oh, yeah,
especially
very much
in
so.
the beginning, and their temperaments, they don't change, but they found friendship within each other and that trust within each other, and that's what I wanted to see come across, and I wanted to feel it as the audience, and I really, really did. So I'm happy about that. Another thing I want to highlight, another person I want to highlight is Jonathan Bailey, or Mr. Bridgerton.
Oh yeah.
As Fiyero. He was, I did not know. I knew the man was talented. I did not know he could sing, but I shouldn't be surprised. His number for Dancing Through Life, wow, it's fantastic. And again, like, hats off to the choreographer and the cinematographer and John M. Chu for capturing that whole number as the way I like zero notes for that number.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably the best choreographed number out of all of the ones in the movie. That the way that they did it.
One Short Day is pretty.
Yeah, but I loved
it's different though.
What I loved about it is that they used the environment a lot.
Yes.
They used the library. They used everything that was around them. And it wasn't just a dance number. It was the entire environment that really was part of this number. And I enjoyed that immensely for this movie.
Yeah. Like, we had such a good time with it. One of my gripes about, before going into the movie, I looked up the runtime. And I'm thinking, how in the heck is this movie 2 hours and 41 minutes with credits? The entire play is under 3 hours, but this is just Act 1. In case you didn't know, this is not Wicked, the whole play. This is Wicked, Act 1. So at the end of this, if you know the musical, you know where we end. It's like we're on like a very now we're all in a very long intermission.
Yeah.
Until we get to they get to dim the lights and say please return to your seats, and then we get to part 2. So I was thinking, why would they extend it so much that it's almost a 3-hour movie? Is this even necessary? We kind of had different opinions on this, so I'll let you say your piece. I did not feel the 2 hours and 41 minutes at all. In fact, when the credits rolled, I was like, I'm ready for more. I will sit here for another 3 hours right now because I was so into the movie.
Near the end, I started to feel it. I started to be like, wow, how long has it been? I mean, we've done so much. We've got to be nearing that. No, we still got 30 minutes here. So there was a point to where I started to get tired just because of how much they did, how much was going on, how much they were showing us, and just the bombardment of colors, lights, and sound that was coming from this movie. But I still really enjoyed it. I feel like they maybe could have snipped a little. I mean, the first part is pretty much the length of the entire musical. So, but they do a good job on making the parts that they extend in the movie feel natural and for them to matter.
Yeah, they really, really matter because like everything that they showed, I honestly in my brain can't think to go back to a scene, be like, oh, we didn't really need all of that. Or this could have been cut shorter. And again, like the songs that I really thought they would cut out or cut short, just trying to go back to the memory of the musical, like I don't think they cut anything short. Like they kept the length of everything, like I think true to form or as close to be. So very impressed.
They just stretched it out so it could be more of a cinematic moment.
Yeah.
To whereas, in the play, lights go dark and then the next scene starts. Yeah. Whereas in the movie, they transition slowly from one to the other.
So, speaking of spoilers, I am going to go into this one little detail. You mentioned it a little earlier. I think I'm just going to say it because it's been on my mind a lot. And it's not a negative thing. Yeah, and I'll put up a spoiler alert thing right here. So if you don't want to hear this part at all, feel free to kind of like skip forward towards our rating because that's going to be next. As if you guys can't already guess what we're going to rate this. But spoiler alert, you have been warned if you decided to skip ahead. Here we are. So the only kind of criticism, and it's very small, it has to do with the song Defying Gravity. Now, I say Defying Gravity because that is the portion of the movie. It's at the end. It ends Act 1 before we go into, if you're watching the play, intermission. It is not about the music or how Cynthia Erivo performed it. She was absolutely flawless. Like, she crushed it, even more than I thought she could crush it, to be honest with you, because I was listening for it, and I know those notes aren't easy. I know they sang it live during the filming, and I was like, damn, girl, like, tears going down my face. So here's the thing, and this is more on, like, how they presented it cinematically versus how it was performed. So again, no notes on the performance. She was amazing. I wouldn't change a thing. So in the musical, you're sitting there and it's Defying Gravity and she's got the cape and she's got the broom and, it's that final crescendo. And Elphaba in the musical, she's lifted in the sky. She's got her black cape behind her. And it's gorgeous, but it's just that moment. There's no other things. I mean, there's other things happening, but you're contained to the theater and just that one, what's happening on stage specifically. So you're very in tune with her sing the song and the emotions that are come of it. In the movie, and I completely understand why they did this. It would feel kind of like if you just stayed on Elphaba's face the whole time as she delivered this whole song. I get why they decided to make it a moving thing, and it should be. She's got her broom, she's levitating, she's flying, and it's a powerful moment. But I feel like by her moving around as much as she did, the way they, I felt like it kind of, at least for me, distracted from the powerful song and the emotions that was being brought forth, and it didn't bring me back in until that note, And I was like, man, I really wish, because I enjoyed her singing so much, I wish they just stayed on her face and maybe occasionally cut to Glinda every now and again. And she can be in the sky and she can fly a little bit, but it was a little bit too much flying, where I was like, no, I just wanted to be on Elphaba and let her live in that moment. So that is the only criticism I have.
Yeah, and I feel like they kind of broke up the song too. Like they put pauses.
Oh, they did a
in
little
there.
bit for the flying.
Yeah,
They
for the
did.
flying, for the specs, for the when they're being chased. Yeah, I want to hear the whole song. I don't want to hear part of the song, action scene. Part of the song, action scene.
Yeah. There's a couple cuts earlier in that song that made sense. Or I was like, oh, this is cool, and it's pulling you in. That's what it's doing. It's like a tease. It's kind of like you're like, all right, it's about to happen. But as the song is going, we're at the crescendo, and I'm just like, no, don't let her fly. Just let her sing. So, and again, it's not about the musical performance. She was beautiful, and she looked beautiful. She sang beautifully. It's really about the choices that made for like direction and cinematography and all that stuff. And then spoiler almost over, I just have to say it, because like if I don't say it now, I'm not going to remember to later. I love that they made sure to keep this moment from the stage production. They brought it over to the screen and made it work. She's got this black cape, and when she first puts it on, it's floor length. It's like regular, it's long and it's beautiful, but it's floor length. The more she flew, the longer it got, and I was like, that's interesting. Why is it doing that? And then she does the I'm not gonna attempt it, that part. But the scene where in the musical she's like up and the cape is way behind her, drags all it. They did that in the movie, and that's why the cape was so long. And I was like, I see what you did, John Chu. That is so clever. A nice little nod to the production. For the people who haven't seen it, they're not gonna get it, but the people who've seen the production or at least seen photos of it, they're gonna be like, oh my god.
I didn't quite get it until you pointed it out to me. To me, I was just kind of like, oh, it's kind of like the Spawn cape from the movie Spawn, how it like was moving around and everything. But overall, I still think this was an amazing movie.
Yeah. So with that said, spoiler over. Let's go ahead and get into our rating for the movie. The movie couple rating is listed for you in the video description below. I think I've sang enough praises for this movie throughout this entire review. This is an absolute catch it opening night.
Yeah, for me too. I thought this was amazing. I thought the color, honestly, even for someone who wasn't really, too excited because I wasn't so attached to the original musical, I still really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it a check it out.
Yeah, and props to Ariana Grande too for literally, like, the both of them nailed it. But she nailed Glinda how I pictured her with the little mannerisms, with just, you guys have to see it. Oh my god, just really, really well done movie, and I can't wait for everybody to experience it. So with that said, once you've seen the movie, let us know in the comments section what you thought of it. What were your favorite parts? Which song in Act 1, aside from Defying Gravity, I feel like that's kind of like a given, like everybody's gonna, aside from Defying Gravity, which song you are most looking forward to seeing it play out on the big screen? Let us know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye. I feel like everybody's gonna stay popular.
That was a really fun song.
Yeah, that's a really fun one too.